you! Just gotta keep moving. I'll get to the bottom of this or die trying. Let go of me, Red. Wait, Red?
Guess again.
Blue? Is that you? What happened?
I had an extreme makeover!
Are you the one responsible for this place's colors getting all mixed up?
In a way, but none of that matters. Your colors are gonna change too. I'm so excited to see whose color you get, but you'll just have to wait and see.
I don't want to be a different color. I like being purple, being me.
Too bad. You don't have a choice. None of us do. Not anymore. Allow me to explain just how the Rainbow Friends colors became swapped. It all started just yesterday. Red was, as usual, testing out his latest scheme to turn human again. I stood by and watched even as the ground shook and the earth quaked. I yelled for him to stop, that we should think about the consequences of our actions before moving onwards. Red ignored my shouts, and the experiment continued. His lab started to tear apart, as its walls and floors and everything within distorted and shifted colors. It was like being in a kaleidoscope. Under any other circumstances, I would have called it beautiful. All of these changes erupted from one singular point, one nexus. And from that nexus, a wave of energy blasted out. Red was the first to change. From the epicenter of the blast, the waveform sprung out. As it passed over Red's body, his colors began to shift uncontrollably. For a Rainbow Friend, you can imagine how traumatic this was for him. I could only watch in horror as he reached his arms out at me in a desperate attempt towards freedom. But I too was quickly swept under the influence of the wave. It was unimaginably painful. Losing my color, gaining it back, going through every spectrum of the rainbow along the way. It was like I was losing my identity, the very core of my being. The wave permeated the entire facility, covering every inch, except, I suppose, deep down below in the sewers, which explains why you escaped its effects. When the earth again stood still and the dust settled, I stood up and examined myself for injuries. But when I did, what I saw, I couldn't believe. Gone was my deep blue color that I had come to love, replaced by the striking and brilliant red. And not only that, but I could tell that my brain had become wired differently. Suddenly I wanted nothing more than to run experiments, to make the Rainbow Friends a huge success, and of course, to become human again. My mind raced and raced about which color of the rainbow I should attempt to make a friend for next. I only stopped myself when I saw Red stand up, holding his head. Only Red wasn't red, he had become my original beautiful shade of blue. Which I understand is an insult to my former self, of course, but I've evolved past it. I felt sorry for Red and all the other Rainbow Friends, because I knew myself in that moment to be far superior, with the rest of you being nothing more than brutes. I recognized that I could use my friends as pawns to get the play place back in business. I turned on our open for business sign, and I laughed into the night as my plans were set in motion. Red quickly fell in line, having no choice if he wanted to be human again. Meanwhile, on the other side of the facility, Green and Orange were in another one of their classic spats. Orange was zipping around Green, who couldn't land a hit on the speedy dino due to being blind. Orange laughed at his ill-sighted friend when the wave washed over them too. Orange's colors were the first to change. He became pink, then blue, then red, before finally settling on green. As he recovered from this painful ordeal, he realized that he could no longer see. He outstretched his arms and tried to make his way around, but found himself stumbling over everything around him. Green, on the other hand, had just undergone a transformation that he was entirely grateful for. He examined his new orange body with his now working set of eyes. He could see again. He was ecstatic. But that's not all. He was also hungry. Green used his newfound sight to glance at the security monitors and saw that guests had seen that they were open again. They were funneling in, and all Green saw then was a feast. Orange, for his part, knew the hunger all too well, and so tried to stop his friend from going down that self-destructive path. Unfortunately, without his sight, Orange felt helpless, a feeling that was only made worse as he bumped into a nearby wall and knocked himself out. A group of guests made their way through the halls of the play place, wondering to themselves where the employees were when Green found them. At first, they were excited to see him, a brand new take on the classic Rainbow Friend design. but their smiles quickly turned to frowns, their laughter turning to cries as Green set upon them. He was vicious and out for blood. To stop his tirade, I sent my right-hand man, my enforcer, Red. Caught between the two monsters, the guests fled, and Green was outraged. He tackled Red, and the two engaged in a Rainbow Friends fight the likes of which this playplace has never seen. Red had my strength, but Green now had Orange's vicious temper as well as his sight. It was a close battle, but Green eventually came out on top. As Green stood victorious, a bumbling Orange tripped over Red and knocked Green out by accident. Red awoke, and the two of them dragged Green to the lab to contain him. I helped the two to restrain Green, who at this point was absolutely freaking out, shouting about how hungry he was. Despite this, I was able to re-engage my plans, and soon, the playplace was once again full of happy guests. It was like back when it first opened. With money flowing in, surely I'd be able to use the funds to research new developments and make us all human again. Unfortunately, Green was not on board. From the lab, he mustered the strength to break free from his restraints. Enraged and unruly, he began to completely trash the lab. As a result of his destruction, once more the nexus point from the previous experiment sprung to life, and the color wave returned. The wave shot out through the facility, and once again us Rainbow Friends felt its effects. But we weren't the only ones. The guests too were changing colors, convulsing on the ground in pain. As for us, we became feral, as Green had, and started chasing after the mutating guests, sending them running for their lives. I still don't know exactly what became of them. I wonder if their families accepted them back in. Regardless, us Rainbow Friends soon passed out. When the event was over, I alone woke up and glanced at my friends. I retained the color of red, and with it, his drive, his cunning, and so I got to work once more. I contained the remaining friends, their colors now twisted and shifting to no end. They're all now locked up in my lab. That's right, Blue's lab. I'm the new Red, and I'm in charge now. I've got them all, my Rainbow Friends, all of them except for you.
Now, Blue, be reasonable. Can't you just let me go? Sounds like Red's not even in control anymore. You don't have to follow in his footsteps.
You're right, I don't have to. I want to.
You're just as much of a monster as he is. All right then, do your worst.
With pleasure. What the? Another wave? Why? No! No!
Ha! Take that!
No! Phew! Me again. That was a close one. Sorry about that, Purple. Purple?